Welcome to the Sean Trey Show. I've got an awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and a little about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on, Sean. So my name's Bill Browne. I'm talking to you right now from the UK. I live in a small town called Folkestone on the coast down in the southeast of the UK. That's where I grew up 40 years ago. And I'm a life coach. That's what I do, right? And I quit my job last year to pursue this after working in sales for about 20 years.
Wow.
I learned a lot, but I always knew it wasn't the right fit for me. But it took me an awful long time to work out why and to be brave enough to say that I wanted something different. But I'm there now and I'm really excited and I'm really scared on certain days, but I feel more alive than I have in a long time. So I feel really positive. I'm in a really good place in my life at the moment. And I really just want to be working with people who want to spark those sort of changes in their lives as well.
That's awesome. No. You can't go there without telling me what was the thing that really kicked this all off? What was it that really made you go, hey, I need to make a change?
Yeah. I'll happily tell the story, but I tell it with a warning because you might get me here, Sean. You might get me. So, listen, I'm incredibly blessed. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 3 gorgeous kids. As I said, I worked in sales for 20 years. Good job. I worked with people who respected me, what I did. I was good at my role. I was from the outside looking in. There was a lot there that people would probably be, envious of and would want in their lives. Got a roof over my head, I got all this good stuff. But I just had this feeling of something wasn't quite right, something wasn't there. And I always felt it like I always describe it as falling into my job. And I did. As a young man, I literally needed to pay bills. So I started on this career literally thinking I'll pay the rent for a bit and I'll go and do something else. I didn't know what, but it didn't matter. And then 20 years later, you're still there. But I always knew it didn't fit me. And this, I always refer to it as my deep ache, this ache that something wasn't 100%. And that just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the moment, Sean, was literally I sat down. I remember it was summer evening. So, nice bright evening. I sat having my dinner with my wife. And she just turned to me and said, listen, what's wrong? What's going on? I'll be honest, where's the Bill that I married, 6 years ago? Where is he? She said, you feel really distant. You don't seem happy. You don't seem yourself. And, if there's something wrong, you need to tell me. And I remember just sat there and I just burst into tears. And I said, I don't know. I can't articulate it. I said, I've got all this great stuff. I feel like I am really grateful in some respects because I've got this amazing stuff in my life, but then why am I not happy with this? Why does this not feel like it's all there? And that's when I realized that it had just got too big for me, and that if I didn't do something, I might have gone down into a dark place, and that would have been really tricky for me and everyone I loved. So it was then that I was like, I need to do something here. And I worked with a life coach who helped me work out that it just wasn't aligned with who I really am. And I've been suppressing it for years. I had other stuff in my life which helped me do that, I suppose, but it was always there. And as I've got older and more reflective and I think about stuff more, it just came to me, and I knew that I had to make a change, and I was terrified. But I also knew how I like to change, and you sort of need to jump in with both feet, and I had the opportunity and I did it. And as I said, May last year, I handed my notice in. I walked away from that role. Lots of people thought I was crazy, probably still think I'm crazy, but I really don't care at this point. I'm doing what I want to do. There's a lot, I have a lot more honest conversations in my relationship and with people. I have a lot more tough conversations. The ends are continuing to meet, but not as easy as they used to. There's challenges that weren't challenges before, but knowing I'm going in this direction now, it's all got a lot easier for me. And yeah, there's not a day yet when I turn around and think, oh, that wasn't the right decision. I know it was, and I'm just enjoying the ride now. It's awesome.
That's awesome. There's there was something that you popped up right there that is really resonates with me. And what the thing is that that I think about is the courage to change.
Hmm.
And I think this is something that a lot of people don't really think about, that
Yeah,
there is this, that you have to find courage to say, you know what? This beautiful thing, this wonderful space that I'm in, this life that I have created that seems awesome to everyone else, might not be idealistic. There might be things that people don't know about that are not validating you. There
yeah,
was this, I can't remember what the holy book it was, but it was like it was, I believe it was the Bhagavad Gita, and it says that you're better to live your own path and completely mess it up. I'm paraphrasing horribly. Better to live your own journey and completely mess it up than to live someone else's perfectly. Like,
yeah,
maybe I could be the best doctor in the world, but if that's not what is my calling, that I feel motivated to go and do, am I serving myself and the world by doing that? Certainly, the world needs great doctors. The world needs these other things, but I'm just using that as an arbitrary example.
yeah,
What is it that makes you tick? What is it that makes you um, feel alive? What is it that
mm,
makes you wake up every day and go, this is why I'm here. This is
yeah,
why I'm supposed to be here. This is what it's all about for me.
yeah,
Because I think that we need people who have that courage, and I'm as well. Like, what you just said resonated with me so much. I am in the middle of a multiple career point shift. And I'm happy to say that it's absolute chaos, but I'm enjoying every last bit of it. One of the things that I'm doing is, after university, I studied martial arts and I wanted to come to Asia. And when I came to Asia, I said, you know what? I'm going to teach a little while because it lets me teach here, and then I can live, and then I can pursue my other dreams. And I was looking at film, and I did other things, and teaching became the thing that I did. And I've always telling people, I'm just doing this on the side, but it just kept going, and it kept going, and it kept going. And then everyone was like, what do you do? You're a teacher. And I'm like, no, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a creative. I'm like, and then that was always there. And I don't have any problem with it, but it's not where I was feeling fulfilled. So what I realized is, like, I actually do like education, but I don't like sitting and teaching in a classroom. So I've been creating this podcast. This is one of the ways that I feel I can teach. I love sharing life lessons. I have a YouTube channel for my daughter where we learn English, through fun, silly activities. And I can share that to kids because, it's about finding A, what you're good at, and B, what validates you. And I'm also going back to school and learning coding right now because I really enjoy it, and I want that to be something that I can have in my back pocket, that while I'm building my media and content, if I want to go and get a remote job as a front end developer, I can. And it's scary to tell people that. It's scary to tell when people go, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm back in school doing this coding boot camp, and it's like, well, why would you do that, dude? And there are all these people that have really kind of judged me for it, kind of really asked me these things, and I was like, well, because it's a high paying job. That's something I really enjoy that I can do while I build my media and not have that pressure on me,
yeah,
of like, because like I get, I can then take it. My goal is to get a job doing that, and then to hire more people that can help create my content, because
yeah,
then I'm creating here. I've got this, plus I've got these passive income streams. But it takes courage, and it takes, like, are you admitting defeat on being a video producer? I'm like, no, I like video production, but we've entered a new arena with TikTok and the new types of media that I don't necessarily enjoy doing all that for companies. I really enjoy doing this I love, and I want the freedom to do this. And so I'm crafting my own path, and it's taken, I'm terrified to tell people that. Even saying this on this podcast about what I'm actually trying to do, we worry about judgment. But you know what? people are so caught up in their own stuff. Most people don't care, you
Yeah,
know?
100%. Yeah, you're right. Um, yeah, yeah. Again, so many points there that I can relate to, and the metaphor I use for where I feel I'm at now, because I've always loved my music, and I describe where I am now as that tricky second album. So you've done album one,
Yeah.
great. Everyone's giving a big round of applause, 5 out of 5. I'm doing the tricky second album now, where my influences are different. I've got a new sound, and actually, you're worrying whether your old fans are going to like your new sound and whether they're going to come with you or not.
Yeah.
And the reality is, my view is the ones that are important, the ones that really want the best for you, will support you, whatever it is you choose to do. However out there it may feel to them, they believe in you and they trust you and they love you. And the ones that are there who are just there to doubt you and tell you, no, you shouldn't be doing that, it's wrong. You're going to struggle to keep them around. And tough learning for me, because one of my values, or one of the things as I learn about myself, is like, I like to be liked, right? That's my character. Sounds a
Yeah.
bit weird saying it out loud, but it's just who I am, right? And I'm cool with that now. So when people don't like who I am and what I do, I struggle with that. That's what kept me where I was for quite a long time. So that's been one of the biggest learnings for me, is like, I'm going to go and do this, and there's going to be a whole raft of people that are like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like, you're an idiot. And there's going to be those lot that go, do you know what? I love that. Go do it. Go at it. Like, how can we help? They're the best ones. Like, tell me how I can help you. And they're the ones, keep them close. But you can't get rid of the other ones. They're always going to be there. You just got to accept that.
And I think one of the things too is that um, kind of finding amusement about it too. I think that one of the things that we really, really do is we take ourselves, we take our situation, we take people to way too seriously. You know, I was thinking about it today. My daughter was coming home, and my daughter's one of my greatest teachers as well. And she came in and she's like, "Daddy, I had a fight with my friend today." I was like, "Oh, really?" But we made up right away. And I was like, "Okay. Do you think the fight was worth it then?" Well, we needed to get it worked out, but it was okay at the end. And what was really striking to me was, they were just over it. They had this conflict. There was something that was serious in that moment. It was probably like, that was my juice box, or
Yeah.
those were my crayons, but yet it was forgiven and it was moved on. And I think that, and we give so much power to people. We give so much power to the people around us, to the situations around us, and to our employers, to the people that we've worked with, to you think about it. I met this one person that came to me for some coaching, and they were like, "I want to change my job, but I feel bad about doing it." I was like, "Well, why so?" I was like, "You're not happy in your job." "Well, I feel bad about doing it because I feel like if I leave, how am I going to let the other people down?" I said, "But you're miserable, and the company will be fine. It will be fine. And if they're not, that's not yours to fix." But we get this investment in the things that we do and the people that we're around. And sometimes the best way to help them is to step back and to do what's right for us. Because maybe that's the thing that they see and go, "You know what? I'm miserable too." And the other person sees they're miserable. And then the company has to make a change because they realize maybe they're doing something wrong. Or
Yeah.
maybe they're doing something right, but it's just people have to go their own way. So, just a thought.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Now, here's my next question for you. In this journey, when you start, you had some interesting points that you put out there that you said that you'd like to talk about. What do you think would you like to talk about next?
So, so when you see me or any of my social stuff, it's I generally approach that at the moment as in like, what's going on for me, because we all think we're this rock out there, this island, but the reality is, we're all having the same thoughts and feelings. Okay, we see them through our own lenses, completely recognize that, but we've all got our insecurities in certain situations. We've all got our fears. We've all got our worries. So generally, I see the people I want to work with and the people I can help the most are people just like me, right? So I'm 42 this year. So I'm middle age, and I'm choosing to make this huge change, which is huge in my eyes. Like I'm ending this 20-year career and going, right, I'm going to go and do something completely different. So change after 40 is a big one for me, because I think, well, any major change is always hard, I think. But I think as you get to 40, I think there's some certain barriers in your mind that can play real tricks on you and hold you back there. And you need to be conscious of them. The other big thing in my life is, I said before, like you, I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids, right? And I know what you mean about them being your biggest teachers. Like the 3 of them, they've all taught me so much. And parenting, is hard. It's really hard. And I've had some real challenges and continue to have some real challenges with it from my own personal point of view. And I'm really open about that. And then my final one, I suppose my biggest thing as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, and we touched on it before, is it's understanding your values and what's important to you, and having the courage, as you said, to go and live those values. Because for me, when we talk about purpose, I believe that our purpose here is to honor ourselves and to live our values. Is exactly as you said. That's how we give back. Is, look at what you're good at, look at your strengths, look at what you want to do and what you want to be, and amplify that. And that's how you live your purpose, in my mind. And that's why I work with a lot of people, is to understand what's really important to you, makes you tick. So they're the big 3 things for me. Change after 40. The challenges of being a parent, and it's different for all, and then truly living by sort of values and letting them guide you in what you do.
I love that. Well, let's dive into change after your 40s.
Yeah.
What are some things, if you had a client come to you and say, I'm 45
Yeah.
and I want to make some major changes in my life, but I don't think I can. What advice would you give that person?
So I think some of the biggest, or the things that reoccur for me when dealing with people around that time of life, and I say this from feeling them myself, are you genuinely feel like, I've left this too late. Like I should
Yeah.
have done this. I should have done this when I was 25. I should have done it when I was 30. I should have just done this by now. I shouldn't even be thinking about this. It should be done. So that's one of the key things I see people thinking. And my response to that is, like, 45, statistically, you're only something like 54, 55% through your anticipated, I think the average age in the UK at the moment is 81. Right. So I'm literally slap bang in the middle. I'm only halfway there. I've only loaded halfway. So to believe that you've left this too late, there's not many occasions, is there, where you say I'm halfway through and I've left it too late. You're on your journey. You've got plenty of distance to go yet. And if you think about, especially from a working perspective, most here will probably retire, I think, by the time it comes to me, about 70. So I've got 30 years left to work. Like, that's longer
Yeah.
than, almost as long as I have worked, right? So that's a huge period of time. There's so much that can be done there. So the first barrier is, you may feel you've left it too late, but there's loads of time left. And actually, what if you had to experience everything up until this point for you to be able to do what you're going to do right now? Like, a question I always ask is, okay, so you say you want to do this. So, for example, I've worked with someone who's like, I've always wanted to start my own food business. Okay, amazing, brilliant. Talk to me about it. You see the passion come out and straight away, bang, I love barbecue. I do this different cuts of meat. I know this and I know that. And they suddenly come alive and you're like, wow, this is like, I believe you can do this. And they're worried that, I've left it too late. And it's like, but think about all the things you've learned up until this point, including knowing that this is what you really want. You're going to hit it so much harder in the second half and be able to do it. So that's number one. The second one is, obviously, genuinely, when you get to our sort of ages, there's more than just you to think about. You may be married, you might have children, you've probably got a house that you've got to keep over your head, you've got the bills that have come in, you've got all the stuff that comes with life. And security is nearly always a real important piece. Like, you can't let your children, that you've got to provide for them. And that can be a big barrier for people. And what you need to consider there is you can still change. You just need a good plan, and you need
Yeah.
patience, because what might take someone 3 years to make this transformation might take you 10, because you have to make sure that stuff's covered. Like you said before, with your coding and stuff, that for me, that's smart. Like, why can't I go and get this career which interests me, allows me to bring money, which I know I need, whatever you think about it, into the family to keep the stuff going, whilst I continue to progress everything else that I'm doing. It's widening that thoughts to how do I do it over a longer period. It's not going to be this whole, I'll turn this around in 6 months. It can happen, but they're like unicorns, aren't they? They don't really exist. So it's
Yeah.
getting a solid plan and being patient, and and then it's about not comparing yourself to others. You're on your own journey, like you said. You've got, this is all to come now. Don't worry about someone who might be doing it in 2-3 years. Just worry about doing it and enjoy the process of doing it as well. And if you can start to get your head into those 3 areas, that for me is how you start to unlock that courage to make the change a little bit later in your life.
I love that. Every time that I start reading a personal finance book, it absolutely just devastates me. They're always like,
Yeah,
the thing you need to remember is that you need time. So start investing when you're 13. And you're like,
yeah,
man, I child missed that one, you know? And they're like, if you're 45, you can start now, but still and you're just like, wow, and the person who's
yeah.
45 sits there and is listening to that book and going, wait, man, come on, you guys are crushing me
Mm,
right now. But the reality is that it's wherever you're at, it's never too late to start something.
yeah,
There's this great story or a great quote. I can't remember the actual quote, but again, I can paraphrase. And it says, the best thing that you can do for your life is to wake up and think and it completely ignore everything that happened before. And imagine that today is the first day of your life. How would you approach it? What would you do? What would you do different? Imagine that everything that came before was not even real. And then approach life from a new perspective. And what would you do differently? How would you approach it differently? One of the things for me that I'm really enjoying about these coding programs that I don't feel was given in the regular traditional education system, but these guys get it. They're not like, all right, we're going to rush you to this point. For them, they're like, you need to get this. Understand, excuse me, understand this point. Understand this point really well. And then when you feel ready, move on to the next step. And then you keep working that. And then you work this step. And then you move on to the next step. When I was younger, I did judo. And though I don't practice as much anymore, one of the things with judo that I absolutely love was the progression of learning techniques. And that you would practice one technique 1,000 times, maybe 2,000, 3,000 times, and you're just doing the same throw. And the basic fundamental building blocks are being laid there. And then you move to the next step. But you can't move to this throw unless you've mastered this throw, because this throw is the foundation for this. And it's so much a great analogy for life, because we want to sometimes make a change. And there's lots of people that would like to make different types of changes. It doesn't have to be someone over 45. It can be someone that wants to change anything. But we can get overwhelmed with the idea of getting from here to here. That change could be, I want to clean my bedroom today, and that may be like, oh my gosh, overwhelmed. There's clothes everywhere. There's everything across the room. And I love my wife, but my wife is the type who gets overwhelmed when she cleans, because she's never incremental. I love my wife and I love her style. She's the type who's like, let's toss a hand grenade in the room, boom, and then she goes at it, right? I'm not. I'm the type that I will systematically break the room down. And normally I work clockwise. I'll be like right here. And I'm going to get everything on this dresser cleaned up. I get that dresser spotless. Then I move a little bit to the right, go to the fridge. And then I just work my way across the room. And what I notice is especially if I can put on some music or a movie in the background or something to just kind of get me in a good space, if I continue to work through things incrementally, I'll get there. I'll swing around the room and I'll be like, wow, I just finished this absolutely monumental task. because sometimes it is a monumental task to clean a
Yeah.
room, right? But whatever it might be, whatever that thing might be, if you can break it down into small steps and really have a plan. There was this great movie, and it's the story of these climbers that were climbing this mountain, and one of the guys fell. And I've referenced this before on my podcast. I think it's called like Into Thin Air, and they have a movie about it. And this one guy fell into this crevasse, and everyone was like sure he was dead. And it was on this mountain, and he's deep down in this crevasse, and he is busted up bad, like really bad. And he doesn't think a couple legs broken, back's broken, but when he starts coming to him, when he's conscious, because he's fading in and out of consciousness up on some mountain, he sees the next thing in front of him. So he sees a rock, and he doesn't say, "I've got to get back to base camp." He said, "I've got to get to the rock." And when he got to the rock, he found something another short distance in front of him, and he couldn't think about getting back to base camp. He didn't have that type of hope. He only knew that if he could get to that next rock, then something would happen. And I love that. For me, I've got my list of videos that I need to get up this week for different channels. And that's all I focus on for my media.
Yeah.
I don't think about what's my plan, where am I taking these things, am I doing it right, am I doing it wrong? What's my next video? Get it up. Let's move to our next thing. And for my coding, it's the same thing. What is my goal for today? What do I need to learn about today? What video do I need to watch today? And then I hit that, pat myself on the back, reward myself, because those little wins are important. They're really important things
100%.
to focus on.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I love it. I love breaking things down to baby steps,
Yeah. And and you're absolutely right. It's making it more manageable and more real. And it's weird. Yeah. It's almost like don't tie yourself to the outcome, just tie yourself to the process. And it's the joy of the process. So for me, I've still got a long way to go in terms of setting up my practice, building my customer base, doing great stuff like this. I want much more of this, and I'm just starting to pick away at it now. But to your point, I've got a very simple plan at the moment, and as long as what I'm doing is aligned to the things I want to do, that's what I'm doing, knowing that once I get there, I then take that somewhere else. But all I know is from the moment I chose that this was the route for me and that I was going to do this thing, I don't know how long it'll take me. I don't really care anymore. All I know is I'm on the journey and I'm loving the journey, and I've got my steps, as you've said. And, you'll start to feel that joy that comes from that the moment you start moving towards it. You just got to start moving, as you've said. And that can be the hardest bit, is planning that first step. Because once, like momentum in real life, if you push a car and it's built momentum, it keeps going. Once you start moving yourself, you'll find it just keeps going, it gets bigger and bigger, and suddenly you're like, I'm doing this and doing this and doing this, and the snowball just gets bigger and bigger.
You're spot on. One of the things that I love there is the thing that you said was your second point, was talking about family. And I think this is one of the things that has become my rock. Is when I was younger, I got really sick. And the thing that helped me get healthy was getting up for my dog, and she was the thing that kept me going. And and people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand, but I pushed through because I was like, I got to take care of my pup. I got to, she's my kid.
Yeah.
When I saw my daughter for the first time, it was a game changer. It was just like, oh, life just got very, very real. Life just got, this game just changed entirely. And my wife and I often talk about this, and this is why I have an assistant who is a rock star. I love her, and she helps me so much with content. She's a phenomenal content developer, and she saves me so much time. But we were talking about some of the content we were making for my daughter, and she's like, I've got these ideas. How about we have your daughter start doing some TikTok dances? And I was like, no, not happening. It's not happening. And I'm not hating on people who do that. But I want to share wisdom. I want to share knowledge. I want that to be something that I impart and have my daughter do, that what we are sharing contributes. it makes the world a better place. Not that a dance video might not bring joy to someone, but that's not what I want to be doing. That's not what I want to be sharing. And I have that certainty because I know that what I want my daughter to be watching is what we're creating. You know, these videos that I do here, I want these videos to be something that my kid can watch in 20, 30 years and go, you know what? My dad wasn't such an a-hole. actually was actually was a pretty interesting guy. I hope so. I hope so. She might still, hate me on some level, but I don't think so. I want to put something out there that can contribute and make this world a slightly better place, because I think that is something that, when I think about family to me, except for, the Dominic Toretto, what is that? I'm blanking. The Fast and the Furious, not that type of family stuff, but but when I think about my family, what I think about is meaning. My family brings me meaning, and that comes back to that guy who fell off the cliff. Sometimes you need that thing that will give you the strength to take that next step.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the things that does that is my family, and to try to make this world better. I can't save it, but I sure can leave my part, leave my mark, and shape it, because we have to believe we can. I'd love to hear your perspective on that too, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I've got 3 children now, and my eldest is 15. She was 15 last week. My youngest is 2. So real different. And yeah, I mean, I remember my first one came along when I was 27. So she was a happy accident and came along. And I remember just like you, just like, this is just a complete shift in responsibility and awareness of what I had to do in this world. And it definitely, all my decisions after that came with this new lens on, like, how's this going to impact my daughter and what she needs and all this sort of stuff. It makes you really focus. I feel like each one of them, well, they've taught me loads, but they've each taught me some really big life lessons. My eldest, she's from a previous relationship, and that got messy at the end. And I had to stand up for myself and what I believe was right for her in a way that I've never had to do in my life. And I'm not good with that sort of thing. That really pushed me. But when you talk about a driving force, she was the driving force for that, because I was adamant that the change that needed to happen. And I was going to do anything I could to make that happen. And that was a tough time, but we got through that and we came out the other side in a good place. But without her, I'd have never have gone down that route. And I learned a lot about myself through that bit. My second daughter was diagnosed with autism when she was 2.5, and she's going to be 7 this year now. And that just shifted my whole perspective again, right? That taught me about something that up until that point I was completely ignorant about. I didn't realize how ignorant I was about it. But in terms of my compassion and understanding, that has just gone through the roof since that's come into my life, and the teachings that she's given me there. And then my third, I was adamant number 3 would be a girl. It just felt like this is what it was. Like I was going to have daughters, but a young lad popped out. That scared the hell out of me. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I've done girls for like years. I'm not an overly manly man. How's this going to work if he wants to play football and wrestle all the time? Because that's not my thing. And that's really opened my eyes to how I treat him differently to them, in terms of compassion and understanding. Oh, come on, you come on, get up, pal. You're fine. Get on with it. Whereas with girls, it might be, oh, crikey, you okay? Like, talk to me. So that's been a real challenge for me in terms of managing that emotional side of being a father to a son. That's a huge learning that my youngest has given me and continues to give me. So, and all these things, to your point of as I put them, different lenses to how my decision making happens now, and who I am have just totally transformed me through three major things, and then all the other good stuff in between about being a dad. So yeah, they're just absolutely, couldn't be without them. Some days I could, sometimes they drive me up the wall and I need to get away from them and just hide away. But yeah, I couldn't go without them for too long. I love them too much.
What coming to the third point, talking about your was it your values, or you living a life that stands up to your belief system? Tell me more about what you mean by that.
Yeah, so whether we all know it or not, we have intrinsically inbuilt values and beliefs, that are bred into us most at a very early age. There's lots of research that says by the age of 7, your values, beliefs are pretty much embedded. And they're embedded into your subconscious mind, and we're all operating primarily through our subconscious minds because, otherwise you wouldn't be able to function. If you think about all the things the body has to do, lots of it runs on autopilot for your subconscious
Mm-hmm.
mind. And your beliefs get built into that, and they become your filter for how you do stuff in this world. That's why there's certain character types that do certain things, or when you say, oh, why do I always do that? Like, why do I always get
Yeah.
myself in that situation? When this happens, why do I always do that? That's because it's an intrinsic built-in value and belief that's built into your subconscious that just guides you towards it because that's what it's there to do. And your values within that are the things that you hold the dearest, and they're different to everyone, right? And there's no right or wrong here. Some value money and possessions. Some value no money and no possessions. There's no right or wrong. It's just what you value. And my experience is the more you understand what they are and the more you honor them in what you do, the better you'll feel about what you do and the more confident you'll feel about what you do, because it's you. It's like it's your bedrock of what you are built on. That's what they are. And when I dug into it more and explored it, that's certainly what it was for me in my situation. When I actually mapped it all out after all of it, Sean, and I look back at the career I had and where I was going, and I really spent quite a few months really doing a lot of soul searching and self-awareness practices, and I still do it, go back to them just to kick the tires, make sure I'm still right, and dig into my values. When I plotted it out, a lot of them were actually being fulfilled by my old world, but there was one or two that just weren't. And I think that's why I lasted so long in that scenario, why I could do 20 years when I knew deep down it wasn't right for me, because I was actually fulfilling a lot of these values, but there was others that weren't getting fulfilled or weren't getting enough. And that's just slowly built. And now I'm more aligned with them. That's why, although some things are a lot harder now, generally everything's a lot
Mm.
easier because I understand where I'm coming from and what drives me. So I know that security is really important to me. It sounds basic, but being able to pay the bills and know that
Yeah.
I've got a roof over my head for my family, that's not just an essential. That's a real value for me. That's something I value and want to demonstrate. Authenticity is a big one for me. Being who you are and doing what you do and being proud of that and like unapologetically yourself. That's always, if I look back, I've always been into bands with charismatic frontmen who have a really clear message and know what they are, who know who they are, know that what they want to talk about, and go at it with passion. And I've seen that in work life as well. The people I've gravitated to. It's only when I've sat back and realised it's that level of authenticity that I really value, and that's now what I'm trying to drive myself, because I was sort of suppressing that element. I was in a role that didn't allow me to be me because I didn't feel it fitted. Now I'm writing my own path. I do what I want now, and it's in line with me. So you understand what your values are. They help you make your decisions. They help you know that if I do that, that's not really me. That's not authentic. So I could do it, but I'm not going to like doing it. So if I don't have to do it, I'm not going to do it because it's not in line with my values. Whereas someone might go, I don't care about authenticity. It doesn't matter in the slightest. I'll go and do that far more easily, but I won't do something else because that's important to me. So if you can identify them and learn what they are and then live by them, everything becomes so much more easy, because any decision you make, if it's in line with your values, is essentially the right decision. Can't make
Yeah.
a bad decision. It might not go the way you want, but that's life, right? But if you do it from the right place, you've got your North Star, you know where you need to be going, and you can do it with confidence then.
I love that. I love that. We don't realize that we don't realize what are all the important things to us. And I think so often people don't articulate that to themselves.
Mm.
They simply
Yeah.
cruise along and something feels wrong or feels right, but they might not know why. And I think that it's such a powerful experience to really articulate, well, why? Why does it
Mm.
feel right? Well, because it aligns with my core values. It aligns with my belief and my mission,
Mm.
and that what I feel is my purpose for being here. And if something doesn't, then it doesn't feel good because it doesn't align with what you, in your mind, believe is your reason for inhabiting this planet. And I think that's the part to me that I think so often we don't give ourselves enough permission to find. We don't give
Yeah.
ourselves enough time to figure out what that is. And we need
Yeah.
to. We need to give ourselves that time to explore that, to question that, to ask ourselves the essence of what do you believe? Yeah, my dog
Yeah.
just jumped up there, so I had to get him to lay down. Well, yeah, right. Kids and dogs, you never know when they're going to pop into your screen.
That's it.
Um, what about this question? If you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, what advice would you give yourself?
Mm. That's a tricky one because I will answer it, but I'll just give some logic behind it. So, as a coach, and listen, everyone's got their own approach to coaching and stuff, and I'm all for that. But I'm a big believer that we should avoid giving advice. Reason being, we can never truly understand something from someone else's perspective. We can get close by asking the right questions, but unless you're there in it, and like I said, you've got all the history of what's built all those beliefs and those values up until this point, you'll never 100% get it. So I think there's a danger in giving advice, and I think it also either subconsciously or directly gives someone the impression of, right, well, you don't believe that I'm wise enough or smart enough to sort my own stuff out, so you've got to tell me how to do it. And I believe everyone, to your point before, like when you do something and it feels right, that's when you're going in the right direction. And 9 times out of 10, if not more, I think we always know what we need to do. We might be too scared to do it, or there might be a belief, to your point, that we can't do it, but we all know deep down. I think where the coaching comes in is it's an amazing way of really helping you get to intrinsically what it is that you need to unlock. You know what? Once you get there, you're like, crikey, that's it. I can see it now. I need to do this. What advice would I give myself? Being in mind, I suppose it's technically myself, so I can give myself advice, of course. I would have said to myself, take more risks because you're smart enough to work it out if it doesn't go the way you want. So just go, and if you have a gut feel, go and do it, especially when you've got less restrictions as a younger man. Definitely do that. Believe in yourself all the time because you've got what it takes to do whatever you want to do. And be patient as well. Be patient.
Yeah.
Regardless, when you start, to your point, these things take time. So don't pull the cord after weeks, pull it after years, as long as if you're really adamant, but don't be patient with the time that you give.
I love that. This comes back full circle to what we were talking at the beginning, and I kind of feel it's like the theme of this podcast is courage to change. I really feel that one of the most important things that people have to dial in on is to find their inner courage, but you have to
Yeah.
have all these other components as well, to get there. If you don't understand why you want to be doing something, if you don't understand your values, if you don't understand your motivation, if you don't have that inner resolve, then you might not find your courage. And I think that's the beauty of what a coach can do. is the person can be your catalyst, can be the person that allows you to explore that space in a feeling of safety, in a feeling
Yeah.
of, maybe it's not so scary. Maybe I can pull this off. Maybe, just maybe, I can win. Maybe I
Yeah.
can succeed. And I think that because so often we aren't given that growing up, so many people are feel that they're just playing it safe. And I love that. Give yourself the permission to take more risks. It's
Yeah.
awesome, man.